Hi, it's Louisa Dahl. And welcome to the Interactive Minds podcast, where I talk with passionate marketers, innovators, and digital leaders about their specific recipes for success. In today's show, I interview Sue Johnson from Spices Retreat, talking about marketing in the travel industry during a global pandemic. Here's 3 things you're going to learn. 1, how they have had to pivot the business using creativity due to COVID. 2, how their communications have had to evolve. And 3, how a brand diagnostic project helped them to better understand their customer. Let's get into it. Today I'm with Sue Johnson, Marketing Director at Spices Retreat. Sue has over 16 years in the travel industry, starting off as a travel consultant and very quickly making the move into marketing. I'm so glad to have Sue here with me today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invitation. It's really good to be here.
Yeah. Now, you've been in travel almost your whole career. What's been a highlight of your career so far?
Just the one. Look, in fairness, there was lots, but I think probably the big one for me was being able to go over to the UK with Flight Centre. It was something that I'd always wanted to do again. I said, I really want to work overseas again before I turned 40. And then I was offered the role over in the UK. And it happened to be a really important time for that business, as though the market had completely changed over there, and they needed to move it from being known for sort of just flights to being known for holidays as well. So to be part of that huge change in that part of the business was really exciting. So I guess I got 2 for 1. Got to work overseas again and got to be part of something really special.
Fantastic. How long ago was that?
I think I got back about 2.5 years ago, and I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
So, a little while now.
Awesome. What was the most interesting part of that role for you, or takeaway, I suppose, as you left?
And it sounds a bit of a cliche, but having a plan and sticking to it, even when the whole world is sort of saying, no, this isn't going to work. If you've done the work and got confidence in the plan, and the whole team does, and you sort of stick to your guns, it will pay off. It would have been very tempting for us to go, it's not working after a couple of months and try and pivot, whereas we'd done the work and we knew that this was the right thing to do.
Excellent.
But that's very challenging when you're on that sort of dark side of the moon and you're like, oh my gosh, is this going to work?
Yeah.
But it's very satisfying when it comes around.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can imagine that must be hard, and the temptation is always to, react fairly quickly to the real-time data that you're seeing probably.
Definitely.
Yeah. Excellent. So now you're at Spices Retreat and you've been there about 9 months. What does your and look, I want to preface this and say, obviously, we're recording this now at the time of COVID-19, where we're all working from home. And as we know, the travel industry has been one of the hardest hit, with a lot of change going on. So let me hear, first of all, what your role was maybe 2 months ago, and then you can give us a bit of an update as to what's changed. So what does your current role normally involve?
Normally, I'm in the office full time, or I'm out at one of the properties.
Yep.
And 3 times a week, we'll have a stand up with the marketing team just to set priorities for the next sort of 48 hours, check the numbers, and just make sure that everything is on track.
Yep.
Sticking to the plan. And then there's a leadership meeting at the beginning of the week as well. So that's that structure. And then I'll have a team, like a one-on-one whip with each of my team. And the rest of the day, it's a real mix of sort of on and in the business.
Yep.
It's a relatively small team. So one of the things I've really enjoyed about this role is being on the tools a little bit again. So doing that high strategy piece when it's needed, but also, getting involved in the day-to-day as well, which has been fun.
Yeah. And how big's the team in marketing?
I've got two people in creative, 2 in revenue, and then a digital marketing manager and a marketing manager. So there's 6 or 7 of us. We've got another marketing manager as well. Yeah.
Okay. And as I said, we're now in unprecedented times, particularly in travel. What has that meant for you?
So working from home full time now.
Yep.
The morning whips still happen, so we use Zoom as a way to communicate, and then the senior leadership team meeting happens on Monday as well, but there'll be another check-in or 2 throughout the week, depending on what's happening.
Yep. Yeah.
And then setting lesson plans for my two kids for the day because they're at home full time at the moment as well.
Yeah.
And then, again, that mix. But I'm finding I'm a lot more on the tools at the moment as well because we've had to scale back hours for some of the team. So I could be building an email before jumping on the phone to you. I was just checking our socials to see what's happening. So just trying to find that right balance. It's been very different, but it's been nice in that it's pushed us into a bit more of a creative space as well. So even though obviously we prefer this hadn't happened, we're just trying to make the most of it as well.
How have you changed your approach to marketing and your communications with your target audience over this time? Because I assume all the properties are now closed at the moment, are they?
No, we're still operating.
Are you still all open and able for having guests?
Yeah, look, and as long as, and what we say to people is obviously as long as you're adhering to social distancing requirements and following the rules, that's all fine.
Great.
Because we've got some urban properties,
yes.
so people can get, can use those as they like. And we've got restaurants as well.
How are you seeing your numbers at the moment compared to, what you were expecting for this time of year?
Oh, look, it's a lot less, obviously, than what we would have hoped because people are needing to adhere to those travel restrictions. So they're not able to travel nearly as much as they would have. And, of course, the message, stay home, and people are doing that, which is good.
Yeah.
But it means they're not coming to stay with us. So they're a lot lower than what we would have normally seen this time of year.
And back to that question, how has your communications maybe evolved because of that?
Like most parts of the travel industry, the media budget has disappeared. That's what needed to happen as part of adjusting the business. So that obviously fundamentally changes the way that we're communicating with people. We've got essentially all of our organic channels are the only thing available to us at the moment. So we've got email, we've got our social, a little bit of paid social and a little bit of search, but of course search volumes are down so low. Even if you've got the budget, it's not being spent because nobody's searching. Everyone's staying home.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you're, seeing an opportunity for more creativity. What's that looking like?
Sort of what I touched on a little bit before, where we've had to pivot the business. So sort of overnight, we've got two product lines. We've got hotels and we've got restaurants. And overnight, that's sort of evaporated due to the various things that needed to happen in response to the pandemic. So that means we had to move really fast and we had to, a couple of questions. Are there any sort of new revenue streams that we can bring into the business? And then what do they want from us? So they can't come and stay, and there's a lot going on. So how can we be useful? How can we be engaging, cut through the sort of COVID noise and make sure that we're front of mind so that we can, when people are ready to travel again, they are thinking of us.
Yeah.
So that's pushed us into a creative space, and that we've had to move fast and we've had to do stuff that we have never done before.
How have you addressed this? Have you come up with any solutions that have kind of answered those questions for you?
We've come up with a couple. So the takeaway for our restaurants is not something that we would have ever sort of considered before. That's going really well. So that's been great. And then just sort of reimagining, okay, so people can't come and use the hotels in the way that they would have in the past, but what could that look like? And we've been experimenting with day use for hotels, for the hotels that are near where people are living. So New Farm in Brisbane, for example, if you live in the area and you need a change of scenery, maybe you're homeschooling your kids and you'd like a day off from that because you've got really important meetings, you can come and use one of the rooms for the day and we provide lunch, contactless lunch, contactless check-in, that sort of thing.
Yeah. What's the response been like to that?
It's been good, yeah. It's been really positive. I think people, they want to do the right thing, but working from the kitchen table day in, day out loses its appeal pretty quickly, so they can sort of have the best of both worlds.
Great. And these things are, fairly major decisions from the business's perspective. What role has marketing had in contributing to those decisions? Yeah,
the leadership team at Spices is small and it's very collaborative, so everyone's had a seat at the table. And the role that marketing has had to play is very much sort of representing what's happening in the market, ear to the ground. This is the commentary that's happening in the media. This is what competitors doing and the response to that, and just providing some balance, I suppose, to this is what we really want to do, and this is how I think that'll be perceived in market. And there's no rule book. Like, we've never done this before.
No, that's right.
So we can't go, oh, well, when we tried it last time, blah, blah, blah. It's all very new and theoretical until we do it.
Yeah, yeah. And what are the next stages that you see from here in terms of being responsive and that creativity as well?
Look, we'd love to hang on to it. So at the moment, it feels like the mood might be changing because some of the restrictions are starting to loosen. So we're hoping that we can start to think about welcoming guests back to the hotels.
Yep.
When it's safe to do so, and what could that look like, because we don't know what the economy is going to be doing, and there's a few other things that are unknown. So so that means that we're going to have to move fast and plan quickly and be okay with, that was a great idea last week, but now it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And just being the risk of using a buzzword, being agile enough to adjust to that and being okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the key to that for you the close management team or the leadership team, or is there some other elements that you found useful in this creativity process, the coming up with new ideas and the being willing to try new things?
Look, having the trust of the senior leadership team has been invaluable, because it means that they back us and have faith that we're doing the right thing. But I think also, and another benefit of the small team is everybody has a voice. Like, we've had a rule of no stupid ideas, nothing's off the table. Just say it, even if it's not that exact idea, it might be the spark of something really cool that we can try.
Yeah.
And I think in other times you might be tempted to sort of over-engineer it, like, over-plan it, overthink it, and then you just get paralysed and don't do anything.
Yeah.
We've sort of had to think, do, and I think we've come up with some really great stuff.
Awesome. In terms of, I suppose, being in, it sounds like you guys have been in a good position, I suppose, if you can say it like that, to thrive during this time despite the massive challenges in this industry. Is there anything that you think was done before that set that up to kind of coincidentally help you at this time?
Yeah, I think Spices Retreats has been around for over 10 years, and I'm really seeing it now that it's a brand that had a lot of trust, because it was always, and it's been very consistent over the 10 years of being about the guests wanting them to have an amazing experience. They love food and wine and sharing that with them, love being in the outdoors and sharing that with them. And it's always been very authentic. And our owner's always been very clear about why Spices exists. And I think that's really benefiting us now, because it's always been real. And now we're finding people are coming out of the woodwork and saying, how can we support you? How can we help? And I think that's really rare for a brand, to have that sort of really loyal following. And it wasn't even trying to do that. It was just the brand was just doing what it does, and people just naturally come along with it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're attracted to that, and I suppose they have that relationship to start off with.
That's right, yeah.
You mentioned previously that you'd done some brand diagnostics when you joined the business 9 months ago. Can you tell us a bit about that process? Yeah,
so I had known the business from the outside for a long time, but getting into it pretty quickly realised I don't really know who the customer is, and I don't know why they love the brand. But when I looked over the history, which is a really great thing to do when you first start in a new role, because it tells you, why the business started, where it's been, and it gives you an idea of where it's going. Hopefully, something that was lacking, I think, was sort of a current and documented understanding of the customer and how the brand's perceived in market. So there was lots of assumptions. I think this, I think that, but the research hadn't been done for a while. And there also weren't any sort of current numbers for the purchase funnel. Again, another risk of using jargon, but we knew how people got to be buying what we sell, but we didn't know where the sort of drop-off points were along the way.
Yep.
So I really wanted to get under the skin of it, and the best way to do that was to talk to people that had already stayed, right? So I found some people that had stayed a few times, and that was by interviews with them. So I think there was about 10 people altogether, and just having a chat with them and, what do you love about the brand and what could we be doing differently? Why do you recommend us? Why do you keep coming back? And they start saying the same thing over and over, which is great. It's wonderful from marketer's perspective because it means that you're dealing with a pretty consistent brand, which is great. And then it's just distilling down the beginnings of what you think might be their brand perceptions, and then going out to a wider audience and saying, oh, do you agree with this? And, how much do you agree with that? And then obviously asking some questions around travel in this space, travel habits and dining out habits for us, because we've got the restaurants as well, and then other interests that they might have in affluence and all those demo and psychographics that you need to be able to build really rich target audiences. And then when you've got those sort of nailed down, then you can go out and do your brand survey and put in, fill in the numbers for your funnel and pressure test the brand perceptions to see where you're sitting. So one that was coming through a lot for us was, our spices just feels like a home away from home. And they kept on saying that spontaneously. It's really interesting. So that goes in there, to what point do you agree that spices is like a home away from home, and you start to get brand perceptions, but also you can use that survey to understand this brand perception of home away from home. Does it even matter when people are purchasing, or is it just the way that someone feels once they've stayed there? And it's nice to have it. It might be a reason they repeat, but it might not be a reason they purchase in the first place.
Yep.
And only then can you go on and do the brand work for next year, because this is the problem that I've got, considerations too low compared to competitors, and these are the brand perceptions that'll help push that along. And now that we're in the situation that we're in, where the industry is just going to be, it's fundamentally changed, and we don't know what it looks like, but at least we know why people love the brand in the first place. And it helps to craft the way that we're talking at the moment, because one thing that we do know that people love about us is our incredible food. So we can build all sorts of content around that, and we can shift it around. So, you've always known that we have incredible food and it's why you love us. Here's a chef telling you how you can do pickling at home.
Great.
Or, another extension of that is we talk to our horticulturalist, and here's some great things that you can do in your own garden. So, you're stuck at home, but that doesn't mean that we can't be valuable and interesting for you. And then when you're ready to go on a holiday, we'd love to welcome you back.
Yeah, great. So many interesting things there. I've got a couple of questions. When you said you were talking to customers initially, was that on the phone in that kind of format initially to get those initial discussions and hear some of those terminology elements that they were using?
Yeah, that's right. It's great to do it over the phone or face-to-face, because if they say something interesting, you can dive into it a bit more. You can't do that with an online survey, but, each interview takes at least an hour. So
yeah, right.
There's a bit of a trade-off there.
How many customers would you have spoken to?
I think it was about 10.
Yeah. It takes time, doesn't it? But it's always worthwhile, I find. Even if it's not for a project like this, it's worthwhile to, have a chat and see what's happening.
Yeah. And people love to be asked their opinion as well. So you don't have too much trouble getting them going, and you can get some really valuable stuff when you speak to them.
Yeah. And how did you go about, once you were doing the brand survey, testing some of those statements? You made an interesting comment there about whether the home away from home actually contributed to their purchase decision or whether it was a feeling. How did you end up testing that? And are you able to share the outcome?
You test it by, you ask those, you use a Likert scale, how much do you agree with this perception? And then you can go on and if they have purchased, you can kind of surmise that if they agree that, yes, we're like a home away from home, and, they got to the point where they were inquiring, they got to the point where they purchased, that had an impact.
Yep. Okay.
You can measure it. You kind of measure it that way.
And did you use any external help or third parties in building these surveys and this process out?
Yeah, there's lots that you can use, but we use, I've used YouGov in the past, so I just use them again.
Great. Excellent. If someone else was interested in doing a similar kind of project and understanding their customer and brand motivations further, what would you recommend, or any learnings that you took away from this experience?
It's something that you sort of learn at uni, but that's for most of us. Showing my age, it was a little while ago now. There are some good training courses that you can do. And I think, all the best marketers that I know are never finished learning.
Yeah.
And they'll seek those out. So I've done a few sort of extra courses recently that have helped get that process down. But if you either it's not your jam and you don't really want to do that sort of thing, or you're just not confident, places like YouGov can help build out the surveys as well. If you just tell them what you're wanting to understand. But I really love this part of the job.
Yeah.
So I was a bit more involved, but you don't have to be that involved. You can get them to help you a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you measure your results normally in your role, and how might that have changed in recent months for you?
Next year we'll be measuring, we'll do the survey again, so we'll be measuring brand awareness and that sort of thing for next year, although that shouldn't have changed regardless of what's happened. But I think we'll be at a bit of a rebuilding phase. So there's a few metrics that you can use in hospitality. So there's occupancy, obviously, for the hotels, and then there's there's some pricing levers that you can measure as well, just to keep you honest. But from a marketing point of view, I think the softer metrics as well. So we'll be interested in website traffic and bookings through the booking engine, and phone calls as well is a good indicator.
Mm-hmm. And have those changed in recent times? Are you measuring anything differently at this phase, or is it a bit more fluid?
We're still measuring the same things, but the targets have dropped considerably.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. What do you think the next phase will be for you guys?
I think it'll be all about recovery for the next, what are we now, May? So next sort of 3 or 4 months will be recovery. And I've heard term thrown around a little bit, the road out,
yes,
which is not a bad way to think about it. And where our properties are, so we've got Queensland and New South Wales, and those markets will behave differently because restrictions will be loosened at a different pace. So it'll be about that.
Have you done much comms planning or I suppose strategic planning around that stage at this point?
I have tried, but the goalposts keep moving. And I've heard a few people say recently, look, it can't be about strategy at the moment. You really just need to be flexible and roll with it a little bit. And that's absolutely right. Like, you can try and turn yourself into a pretzel having this wonderful plan, but something in the market will shift and like, okay, well, that's not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
That's that creative space that I was talking about before. Like, we just throw ideas out there and go, right, did this work? Did that work? Oh, and I'm not sure about that one. Oh, I like that one, but what if we tried this? And it sort of forces you into that space, which has been good.
So how far ahead can you plan at the moment? Is it week by week?
We've got something that's in market at the moment, and as long as that goes well, that'll feed into the next thing. So that's probably 4 weeks.
Yep. Okay.
I think so. We've got a 4-week plan at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Now, you mentioned before that you believe that a marketer should never stop learning. I take a similar viewpoint. I'm pretty passionate about that. Can you explain to us or to share with us what you've done over the years to keep your skills fresh? What types of things you like learning from and how you engage with it?
The best courses that I've done recently, there's a marketing professor called Mark Ritz, and most people will have heard that name.
Yep.
He's got some fantastic online courses that you can do, and that research structure that I talked about before is very similar to what he teaches, but he goes into a lot more detail, and they were great courses.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend those. There's the mini MBA, and then there's the mini MBA in brand management. Even if you're not a marketer, the mini MBA is really good.
Yeah.
Mini MBA in marketing.
Yeah, great.
So I'd recommend that. And then there's I listen to all sorts of different podcasts and read things like Umbrella and that sort of thing, just to keep current.
Great. What are your favourite podcasts?
I'm going to sound like such a suck-up, but I quite like this one.
Thank you.
The Umbrella one, again, is quite good. And there's there's a great one that ABC does called Download This Show. But it's not strictly marketing, but it's sort of media and tech. Okay. And I just really like their perspective, and they're a bit more sort of warts and all, and they get quite good interviewees, and they don't mind having an opinion.
I haven't heard that one. I'll have to take a
really
listen.
Good.
Yeah. Any others come to mind?
There's one called, I'm going to get the name wrong. I think it's Marketing Today, and that's little bite-sized bits. And then there's one called The Marketing Show, which is it's a bit silly, but it's fun as well. And it's two guys, and they're Mark, and it's The Marketing Show.
Yep.
But some of the topics that they have are good, and just again good thought starters, or even things. They did a great one on Canva, which I've been using for ages, but they talked about some of the other features. Like, I didn't even realise I could do that. That was really helpful.
Yeah, great. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing all those with us. I'll be sure to include some notes in the show notes for us as well. Now, if people want to reach out to you or get in touch, what's the best way to do so?
LinkedIn is probably the best way, although there's loads of Sue Johnsons. So I'm in Brisbane, and you can search for Sue Johnson Spices Retreats. That'll make it a bit easier.
Yeah, excellent. We'll include a link to that as well. All right, Sue, well, thank you so much for being on the show today. That was really interesting to hear how you're going through things at the moment. We appreciate you sharing what's really going on behind the scenes in a travel business. I know that's not always easy, so we appreciate your time and transparency around that.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode. My recommended action item from today's show is to consider when you last spoke to a customer and get on the phone. We can't do this often enough. If you enjoy these podcast episodes, please take 1 minute and leave us a review. As marketers, we all know how valuable reviews can be, and I'd be eternally grateful. You can access today's show notes at interactiveminds.com/podcast. See you next week.